Hello and welcome to Sidelbia Snippets. I'm Sidelbia, and on this show, we will be going through snippets of music history. We have an amazing guest for all of you today. It is Leo Vasquez. He has been on the podcast before. He was on the electric bass episode, which I recommend everyone go listen. It was a super fun episode to record. It was back in season 1 before there was video, so it's just audio, but it's still great. It's on Spotify. Go listen to it. Um, but today we will not be talking about the electric bass. No, we'll be talking about a very different topic. In fact, this is actually going to be our Halloween episode, which is appropriate because my voice is going, if you couldn't hear. Because because of a different job I've been working. But yes, this is going to be our Halloween episode, and we're talking about the Curse of the 27 Club. Now, it's our Halloween one simply because there's curse in the title, and there are a few kind of more, I guess, theories behind this topic. But in general, it's a pretty sad episode. It's going to be, this is a heavy topic. Full disclosure. So, trigger warning before we get into any details or anything. Suicide. What else? Drug use, heavy drug use, excessive use of alcohol, addiction, a lot of mental health issues. Self-harming. Yeah, the list goes on. So it's just important to put that up front. I will also be putting the hotline for suicide prevention in the description and a hotline for addiction in the description. Just to cover the bases here. Because what is the Curse of the 27 Club? It is this concept that famous artists tend to die at around the age of 27. Now, obviously, this isn't every artist ever, because there are artists who've died younger than 27, and there are artists who've died older than 27, and there are artists who are currently 27. But it is the idea that you are more likely to die as a famous musician at the age of 27. Now, there are some correlations with it. A lot of it really does come down to the fact that all the people who are members of the 27 Club are people who struggled severely with mental health issues in their late 20s. And also, there are a lot of inherent risks with just being an artist and touring and traveling and being surrounded by a culture that supports heavy drug use and excessive drinking. And 27 happens to be, like I said, late 20s. So a lot of this stuff sort of starts to catch up with people. So there's another theory also that the 27 Club curse immortalizes basically people who die and artists who die at 27. So while maybe they were famous before, they became even more famous just by dying at the age of 27. Once again, all these things are subjective, and numbers are not as exact as we'd like them to be, because a lot of it comes down to how would you define fame. So, but that's the basic principle of it. Now, there are 6 main members of the 27 Club. That is Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, and Amy Winehouse. There are other members, but those are kind of the big names when you say 27 Club. Those are the people that we are talking about. Brian Jones was a member of the Rolling Stones, and he drowned in his pool after some excessive substance abuse. He went for a swim. The details are a little blurry, but basically, yes, he drowned in a pool. Jimi Hendrix choked on his own vomit, which was the result of also excessive drinking. Janis Joplin had a heroin overdose. Jim Morrison of The Doors had heart failure that was also brought on by excessive drug use and alcohol abuse. Kurt Cobain committed suicide, and Amy Winehouse died of alcohol poisoning. So that is why I think it is so important to say that while there are a lot of theories as to why these artists died, a lot of it does stem to or come down to undiagnosed and untreated mental health issues and addiction. All of these people died with some kind of correlation to drugs or alcohol or mental health issues. Kurt Cobain is the only one to have officially committed suicide, but none of them were particularly taking care of themselves leading up to their deaths. And Amy Winehouse, most famously, engaged in self harming, hence the trigger warning of self harming, leading up to her death, showing that she had a whole host of mental health issues. And you can find YouTube videos of some of her last performances, and you can see her struggling there. I actually personally wasn't able to watch them after reading the book I did about her because it just was almost a little too hard. The other thing that's sort of, I guess, a little interesting is that both Kurt Cobain and Amy Winehouse knew about the curse of the 27 Club. So I guess there's one theory that Kurt Cobain knew about it and kind of had a, I don't know, thought it would be an appropriate age. But once again, he's had a lot of mental health issues. And also, it's important to note with his case specifically that his fascination with suicide was a long running one. This wasn't a sudden, impulsive, random death. This was someone who'd been struggling with suicidal thoughts for a while and inevitably suffering from and succumbing to depression. This was not a sudden, impulsive thing. No one forced him to do it. There's a lot of theories around that as well. And we'll also get into a lot more of the sort of more mystic and conspiracy theories with Leo, but I just sort of wanted to get the heavy stuff out there and talk a little bit about it because I think it's important to just all cards on the table with this stuff. Additionally, yeah, Brian Jones struggled a lot with his mental health as well. He actually left the Rolling Stones or was kicked out of the Rolling Stones before his death and tried to make a public comeback, but it was clear that leaving the Stones really got to him, and being made to feel like the weakest member of the Stones really got to him. Additionally, Jim Morrison, someone who I want to talk a little bit more about, Jim Morrison of The Doors, he also had a long history of mental health issues leading up to his death, including disorderly conduct on stage. There was an issue that he had specifically with Jimi Hendrix, where he rushed Jimi Hendrix on stage and exclaimed some very sexual comments towards him while grabbing his hips, grabbing Jimi Hendrix's hips, which made Jimi incredibly, incredibly uncomfortable. All of which was spurred on by drug use and mental health issues. There's even thoughts that he struggled a lot with his sexuality and how he wanted to present to people. He had this fascination with Greek gods and loved the idea of being seen in a sort of same light as Dionysus, who's the god of wine in Greek mythology. However, while these are the most famous names in the 27 Club, they are not the original member of the 27 Club. That title goes to Robert Johnson, who was a guitarist, a blues guitarist. And the legend goes, and once again, we'll talk more about this with Leo, that he apparently made a deal with the devil to become an amazing guitarist and then died at the age of 27. How he died is actually a mystery. We don't know. And that's not because necessarily it was hidden and like it's some mystical reason. Unfortunately, and probably more realistically, he was a person of color um, living in the United States during a time where people of color were not treated particularly fairly. Not that they are necessarily today. And it also meant that records of him were not necessarily kept to the same standard that we might try and keep today. So we don't really know how he died, but we do know that he died at the age of 27, or at least according to the mythos, he died at the age of 27. Anyways, I could keep going on about this topic, but I really want to get into our conversation that Leo and I had because I really do think it was an impactful and meaningful conversation to me personally. Before I do that, however, I would like to just mention the reference that I primarily used, which was 27 by Howard Sounds. I'll be putting a link to the book in the description. What I really appreciated about this book and its approach to the 6 main members of the club was how it took into account the seriousness and gravity of mental health issues and how realistic its approach to each person's biography was, which I just think that's an important thing to have, because while these were amazing figures that we sort of have immortalized in pop culture mythos, they were still people in the end, and that's the thing I really appreciated about this book. So I'll be putting a link to it in the description. It's on Audible. That's where I read it as an audiobook, and I really recommend checking it out if you want to learn more about this topic. Let's hear what Leo has to say, and let me go see what Rosie is doing over there. She's up to chaos. Hi, welcome
What's
back.
up? Hey,
Welcome
everyone.
back.
Happy to be back.
Yeah, for those of you wondering why my voice sounds like this, it's because at my other job, I scream a lot.
Yeah.
So, we might talk about that, but that would be in a different show if we were to talk about
Yes, different
that.
show.
But this is the Halloween episode, and we
Yes.
will be talking about something a little spooky, a little sad. We're going to go into sort of the more sad details just on my private, where I just talk.
Uh-huh.
I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more and discuss some of the more conspiracy theory
All
stuff
right.
related to this topic. So everyone watching already knows that this will be about the 27 Club, and I will have given a little information, gone over some of the more triggering, depressing details already.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about some of the weird,
Crazy conspiracy, spooky stuff that's been happening.
Yeah, so there are hold on, I had it pulled up here.
Well, if you're a musician, you may already know, or an artist, you may know what the 27 Club is, and it's it gets very crazy, it gets very sad, but it's a very, how can we put it? It's just a sad place to be in, but it's also very scary.
Yeah, so basic rundown again is it's musicians and artists who died at the age of 27.
Yeah.
And there is actually it is actually a notice number, but there's also a theory that people gain popularity after their death if they've died at 27. So maybe that is why it seems like so many famous people die at 27, is that if someone dies at 27, now that the 27 Club has notoriety, then it's like, oh my God, and add another artist to the name to the list. So that is sort of one of the more grounded theories behind the 27 Club. But there are 4 theories that are kind of a little bit more out there in terms of what it is. So the first one is called the Saturn return theory. I don't know how into astrology you are.
No, hit me with this.
So
I'm open, so just hit it and I'm gonna commentate. Let's do it.
I love astrology. I think it's weird. I'm into it. I don't let it control my life, and I don't know how I feel about whether astrology is to blame
For a
for
lot of
artists dying at the age
yeah,
of
or a
27.
lot of mistakes I've done in the past couple of years.
But according to this article, there is an astrology theory that states that around the age of 27, the planet Saturn returns to the same position that it was in when a person was born. This can bring a lot of emotional turmoil, challenges, and changes in a person's life. Some people may not be able to cope with these changes and resort to destructive or self destructive behaviors or suicide.
Dang.
Now, I don't know how I feel about this theory because I feel like that sort of relates to everyone. Then
Yeah.
if this is true, like if 27 is a hard year for everyone, then we should just see a spike in deaths for
Yeah,
everyone, not just
unfortunately, yeah,
artists.
suicide and a lot of crazy stuff. Yeah,
I don't
but
know.
I mean, look, I'll say this about I'm a musician, right, and I'm a
Yeah.
touring musician. I can tell you this: stress and anxiety is part of the gig.
Yeah.
It really is. Stress and anxiety, and then depression comes along, and then depression has a best friend called anxiety. You know what I mean? So it's really unfortunate that it just gets crazier and crazier. And then the thing is like about these very famous musicians that died or artists is that they were at a very horrible place mentally. All of them. None of them were like happy and all of a
Mm-mm.
sudden died. And they all died tragic deaths. Most of them had to do with overdosing or yeah, pretty much overdosing or drowning in their own vomit because of overdrinking or alcohol poisoning. It's not like they were just sleeping one day and then they wake up the next day and they just died in their sleep. No, they had tragic, horrific deaths.
Yeah, and it's sort of the book I've been reading argues that a lot of the deaths actually, even if they weren't intentional suicides, like with
Hmm.
Kurt Cobain, they were suicide to a degree, and that it was people not taking care of
Yeah.
themselves and just being in a really dark place
Hmm.
in their life. And I don't know. I haven't hit 27 yet, so I don't
I'm past
know.
27, so
So, what was 27 like for you? What was life like at
27 was what,
27?
4 years ago? It was a rough year. Yeah, it was a rough year, but you know what? I made it. We made it. I saw therapy. You know, like I sought the things that I needed to find and see, and I made it past
Okay,
that
so
27 club.
maybe this Saturn return has a point that 27's a
Yeah,
rough year for
I mean, it
everyone.
is. It was an interesting year of my life. It was a very interesting year of my life, and suicide was contemplated. But thank God I'm alive, and thank God I'm here.
Yeah.
But it is a very scary. It was a scary year to me.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. So maybe there is something
maybe there's
to
some
it.
truth behind it.
The other theory, this one has been totally debunked, but it's still something to sort of mention, is the white lighter theory.
Okay.
And this is that
I just want to say you're naming a bunch of theories I've never heard of, but and I'm really
I would
excited
love
about
to,
it.
if
I
you
know a
know
couple.
some.
We'll let you
Okay.
finish your four,
This
and then
is
I'll hit my four or
this
my
is
other
the
ones.
one. This is the one that I had heard of. This
Okay.
one. And it's not true. It's that white lighters are bad luck,
Mhm.
especially for like artists or whatever. And so if it's like bad luck to like use one to like light whatever like you're smoking or whatever. And so the thought is that all these artists died with a white lighter on them. This is not true.
Oh,
They did not die.
that
Most of them
that'll
did
be
not die with a
crazy.
white.
They'll have a white lighter in their pocket and they're dead.
Yeah, this is it's you're not, if you carry a white lighter, you're not cursed, or at least I don't know. Maybe if you're superstitious about it, but most of them did not die with a white lighter in their pocket, and the white lighter wasn't invented until like the 70s. So
Oh,
all the
so
members
a
of the
lot of
27 Club
yeah, got to
from before then,
yeah,
not related.
yeah,
Now this is one I think we mentioned when we were talking the other day,
hmm
is the crossroads theory.
yeah. That's the one I know of.
Yeah, which is kind of the one that's most interesting to me. It's the idea of all of them made a deal with the devil,
Pack with the devil.
yeah, to find great success in their artistry, but then died at the age of 27,
27.
which is the exchange. And this comes off from the Robert
Johnson.
Johnson, who's sort of considered one of the first. And I had heard the name before just because I'm into blues. So
Hmm.
I didn't know him necessarily from 27 Club
Hmm.
stuff, but I knew him from as a just like a blues artist. But he's sort of one of the first people. But yeah, this was a theory I think you
Yeah,
first mentioned to
I
me.
brought it up. So Robert Johnson was known as like the worst musician in town. He was horrible. He was the worst, and everybody was like, "Oh man, you suck. Stop playing. Stop singing. All this stuff." And it kind of drove him a little crazy to the point where he just disappeared. And apparently, he came back after like a couple of days or a week, and he started playing the guitar. And he will play like if it was like five men playing the guitar, and he'll start singing. He was singing like if like the voice of an angel, And apparently, what people say, and even Robert Johnson himself, I think there's a song. Don't remember the name of the song, but I'm pretty sure if you Google it, you'll find it, where he talks about he went to the crossroads to make a pact with the devil, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then there's actually a lot of lore behind this because even in classical music times, a live violinist would make pacts with the devil. Yeah, and I didn't do much research on this, but I remember reading this when I was doing survey history for music, that a lot of classical musicians would make, like, for example, a lot of, like, we talk about like classical musicians or composers like Beethoven, Mozart, Bach. Bro, like, these people didn't have a point of reference when it came to composing. I mean, they probably did, but music was so brand new and composition was so brand new. But all of a sudden, started to hear all these sounds and hear all these melodies in their heads, and they're like, "Oh, who gave it to them?" And some people's like, "Oh, it was God, it was the angels," but some people are like, "Oh, it's probably the devil," because the devil was. If we don't know, if y'all don't know this in theology, it's a very quick little thing. Um, the devil, it was the musician in heaven. Like, he Lucifer. His name means giver of light, which was given by music. He was a musician in heaven. So if there's anybody that knows music, it's the devil. It's the man himself.
Interesting. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah,
I'm not as well versed in that world of theology.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, honestly, I don't know much about making deals with
The devil.
demons
Oh,
at
there's
all.
a lot. I know so many stories, and but Robert Johnson was the man that kind of started the 27 Club. He died at 27. I don't. Do you know how he died? I don't remember how he died.
I don't know. He died. I can look
Yeah,
it up.
yeah. So all I know is that he died, and then from there on, everybody's like, "Oh, he made a pact with the devil. He made a pact with the devil. He made a pact with the devil." But I I do a lot of ghost hunting. I do a lot of spooky reading, and a lot of these times, people tend to meet the devil at the crossroads, and it's known as a place of, there's no turning back. If you go to the crossroads, apparently a man meets you there, and you talk and you negotiate what you want, and it's just a crazy concept, a crazy theory. Did you find it?
According to New York Times, mm,
Okay.
who knows?
All right.
It was a mystery. I mean, it was also back in like 19 like the 19 late 19 uh
Like,
died 1938.
yeah.
So we're
So,
talking about like World War II was
yeah.
on
A
like the
lot of things were happening around the
yeah,
world.
people weren't paying attention to necessarily to how one blues musician died. There
Died.
was enough
Drama
yeah.
happening around the world.
Yeah.
Hey, man, maybe Robert Johnson opened up the Pandora's box and all these wars started.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know much about like that kind I mean, like what is like sort of like with your deal you said you have a couple stories relating
Yeah.
to like deals with devil.
Yeah.
This is our Halloween episode.
All right.
So,
All
I would
right.
love to hear one.
Well, um, growing up, especially in Latin culture, people became rich, and, like, for example, my mom's from Mexico, and a lot of these people would make pacts with the devil, right? And the reason you would know is because they will carry a gold coin, right? And then there's this legend or spooky legend called El Carracho or El Carracho. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's this man that meets you at the crossroads, and he's in a horse and he's wearing a an outfit, and you meet this man, and this man's like, "What do you want?" And you tell him, like, "I want riches, I want fame, I want love, I want this." And they're like, "Okay, well, here's this gold coin." And the legend is like, "I'll come and collect it eventually. Just keep it on you." Now, people are like, "Oh, well, if I what if I get rid of the gold coin? What if I bury it? What if I hide it?" The thing is, like, this gold coin somehow always finds its way into your pocket. So eventually, let's say you're at the peak of your fame, the peak of your rich, the peak of your marriage, whatever. This man appears, takes his gold coin, and takes your soul with you. And there's been cases where people go missing in, like, these small villages in Mexico. My mom was like, "I know people that made pacts with the devil, and we don't know where they're at now." So it's just very interesting concepts of, like, oh, they go missing, they go missing, they go missing. I'm a big believer that yes, there is a devil, there is a God. I don't, I don't, I do believe that somehow the 27 Club is tied into something more emotional than spiritual, but I do think there's a spiritual tie to it because all these musicians that died and artists that died, they were great at what they were doing, but they were just so sad. And I feel like, fortunately, in that time, we were able to tie, like, creativity with sadness instead of creativity and happiness. You know what I mean? So, Kurt Cobain, even though they think his suicide is a conspiracy, that's a whole other
Well,
video.
here that's a whole other video.
Yeah.
I just want to put it on the record. I don't believe that it's a conspiracy.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of documented evidence that he was planning this,
Okay.
and that
Yeah, no,
he
for sure.
had for a long period of his life
Oh,
gone in and out of suicidal episodes,
yeah.
which is means not that it was inevitable he was
Uh,
gonna and take his own life,
yeah.
but it just points to this was not someone conspiring against him.
Yeah.
This was someone who needed help.
Help. No, most
Yeah.
definitely because everybody blames I think his wife at the time,
Courtney
Love,
Love is
yeah.
her stage name. Yeah.
Yeah, and they all blame her for this and this and that. But I do believe that this man was crying out for help. And then the thing is, like, him and Neil Young actually were really good friends. And Neil Young, Kurt Cobain, I think no, Neil Young was trying to reach out to Kurt Cobain to help him because he was not doing very well. But unfortunately, they never had the conversation that they needed because Kurt Cobain took his life.
Yeah.
And Kurt Cobain did quote Neil Young in one of his songs, which is, "I'd rather burn out than fade away." Right? But ever since the death of Kurt Cobain, Neil Young says, like, I regret that. It's like, I wish I would have never written that because they took away this very talented man. And Neil Young says, I'd rather fade away than burn out because burnout is what led Kurt Cobain to suicide, which is very sad. And then it just keeps on going. It just gets deeper because even Janis Joplin, she died of a heroin overdose. Beautiful voice, probably one of the greatest voice of the 70s rock era. I think one of the first really strong female artists, you can say. I mean, there's a couple we can name for sure, but at that time she was very like the rock vocals. Dies and she was very depressed, very sad. You know what I mean? And but here's another crazy thing is like I think there's a lot of cool artists nowadays that are alive, great artists, but they're going crazy. One example, Kanye West. He's been losing his mind the last couple of years. And he's been saying a lot of crazy things that I don't agree with. But people say, like, look, this is the price of being a very awesome, talented musician, but he's losing his mind.
Yeah, and I think also I think the mental health thing is a big thing, and also a lot of these artists showed signs of not just depression and anxiety, but also bipolar
Yeah.
disorder. And I can say as someone who's on the bipolar spectrum, which I don't think I've ever said online
No.
before, but there's a lot of crossover between
Mm-hmm.
creative people and having that sort of emotional turbulence within oneself, which can lead to a lot of issues. Not justifying Kanye's
Yeah,
West's
no, exactly.
actions.
His motives and whatever he's saying now, which is crazy because I'll say this as a musician, his first 3 albums to me, a lot of his music is really crazy good, but then he just went crazy, and you're just like, man, I don't know if I want to listen to your music.
Here, what age did he go crazy?
That's a good question. Are you gonna look it up?
I am gonna look it up.
Look it up. The thing is, like,
This is what I'm good at.
he passed 27, and I feel like a lot of I know a lot of cool musicians, and like John Frusciante, another guy, one of my favorite musicians from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, passed 27, but he literally almost died. Like he went crazy. So I can name you a bunch of musicians and artists that just go crazy after 27, or they just start losing their mind. Some of them are okay, but I don't know, man. It's a crazy place to be at.
Okay, so he was 39, so
Okay.
a little past 27.
A little past
Just
27.
a little.
A little.
Yeah.
But who knows how much was building up in his mind at that point, or in his spirit, or in his soul.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is also that there was an I think it was with the members of Rolling Stone, when there was an interview done that was like, it takes a certain degree of mental fortitude to be able to handle fame, not just to be able to get it, but also to be able to handle it.
Yeah.
Because the amount of intense social pressures and everything that comes with it. And I mean, and also the fact that all these people who died at 27 were at the height of their career.
Oh, they were, top.
Means that they were at the point of their lives where they were dealing with almost the most amount of pressure they had ever faced and stuff. And some people are just not made to deal with it. And that's like fine. But you won't know that until sometimes sadly, like too late. And so, and without the resources, without the access to all the stuff that they need, it's not going to go well. There is one last
more.
theory
Yeah,
on this
hit
list,
me.
and then I want to hear if you had heard of any others.
All right.
This is the Illuminati theory,
Oh,
which
nice.
is just all over the place. And I have
Nice.
tons of just thoughts on all these kind of things as a member of as someone who grew up in a very Jewish community, but that's the whole thing. But basically, it's that all these members had discovered something about the Illuminati and that were killed at 27 by members of the Illuminati.
Illuminati.
I I don't know. I don't think this is true, but I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, so I'm just like maybe I'm disregarding all this with like a little too much too dismissively, but that's literally there's most of what there is, and that if you study their music, you can apparently find like warning signs and stuff
Messages and
about it.
warnings, subliminal messages.
Yeah,
I look, Illuminati or not, I do feel Hollywood is a very mysterious place.
I agree with that. I
It's a
agree with
it's
that.
a very mysterious, scary place. If it's not just the music scene, but even the acting scene. Like, I work with a lot of big people, you can say, where they tell me things where I'm like, how, like, why, like, I'm over here eating dinner and these people are doing crazy, sketchy stuff that I'm not gonna say over the mic, um, yet. I don't know. I'm past 27, so I don't think I'm gonna die or get killed. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
but
you've made the mark.
yeah, yeah, I'm good.
However, I, on the other hand, am
Yeah,
still at
exactly.
risk.
So for the sake of Sadie not getting turning up missing in the next couple of days, no, no. But the thing is, like, I work with this one artist, and he got invited to a party, walks in the party, and they're doing very um physical things.
All right.
All
Okay.
right. And he's like, what the heck? And the thing is, like, they're like, oh, do you want to join? He's like, no, I thought this was a party. And this is like one of these mansions in like Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right. And I've got invited to parties where I walk in and I think I thought, like, okay, party is a party. Cool. Like, whatever, some drinking and whatever people do. Great. I walk in with a friend and I just see a bunch of weird stuff happening where I'm like, number one, that's not my vibe. Number two is like, how did we get here? It's like, it's not even 10 p.m. and people are doing weird things. So I think Hollywood's very mysterious. And especially in the 90s and 80s and 70s, the drug scene in Hollywood was, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not big now. Yes, there's still cases. But back then, it was like a free for all.
Yeah, I think now there are more mental health resources
Exactly.
available. It's less stigmatized. And also, listen, we knew that drugs were bad for us. Like
Yeah.
that was never a question. But I think there's a movement, and you could probably speak to this also as a just a creative. I think there's a movement away from this need that you need to suffer as
Yeah.
an artist,
Exactly.
and you like, and that drugs are inherently beneficial to your
Mm-mm.
art. And
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a realization that you can create great art
Yeah,
while
exactly.
being in a good mental
Yeah. No, for sure.
space.
And I said that earlier. It's like, back then people was like, oh, I got to be sad to channel creativity. But I feel like happiness also is a great outlet for creativity. And don't get me wrong, we all, like, as human, and again, this is like, as musician and as, people who are creatives, our highs are really high and our lows are very low. And we channel our lows very different than other people, and we channel our highs very different than other people. The crazy thing is, like, sad music tends to sell a lot better than happy music. A lot of my favorite. I'm a big emo head. I love emo music. Why? Because it channels an emotional aspect of when I was growing up. I was like, oh, I was used to be sad. Listen to this song, so I listen to it now more of nostalgia. But, like, bro, like, we need more happy music. We need more, like, happy tears,
Yeah,
right?
that's something I'm working on is trying to write more happy songs because it's so easy when you're just like you've had the worst day of your life
Yeah,
and you just want to write something. Then you'll sit down and you'll write just like the most depressing song. But then when you're in a good space, like my brain is like, I'm gonna go hang out with friends. I'm
yeah.
gonna have fun. Like I'm not thinking I should channel this into my art.
hmm I do believe, though, if channeling, like, helping you cope with whatever you're going through is through writing, great, do it. But I always tell people, it's like, it's okay to be out of that place. You don't have to be sad or depressed or anxious. And the thing is, like, you're right. Mental health back then was very like, oh, you depressed. You know what depression is. That's not true. Now, like, yes, you need help. Especially in LA, there's a lot of places you can go for get help. I had to go get help mentally because I was going crazy, and a lot to do with work. Yeah, like, I'm not a famous person at all. I work with a lot of famous people, and sometimes their junk like lands on my plate, and I get very, like, anxious about it. I'm just like, y'all, I'm just getting paid to play bass, but I'm like your therapist. But it's messing me up, so now I gotta go talk to my therapist, and it's just a crazy just circle of just therapy, therapy, therapy. You're messed up, so I'm messed up now, and then we're gonna have a very sad show.
I do want to ask because you mentioned you knew of some other theories
hmm
and that you had other theories.
Yeah.
Like what
So
what are those?
I'm the biggest. I do believe that Robert Johnson was the guy that did start this. Um, but my one of my, I guess, theories that I kind of develop is like the sadness theory, which we were talking about right now, is that people who there's only a few people that can channel this depth of sadness to be creative, but the price of channeling this sadness is death.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, um, you know what? I don't know what age Heath Ledger died. He's an actor, right, who played the
Mhm.
Joker, but he channeled a very obscured, weird place to play the Joker, and he died. Right now, I'm not saying that he died 20 what
28.
28, just a year after his 27th. But so now, like musicians, like Kurt Cobain, again, like we were talking about how he was very sad, very messed up. He had a lot of things happening on the inside, but he channeled a area that not everyone can channel, and it led him to die. It led him to suicide. Jimi Hendrix, another great musician. Again, he was. His guitar playing to this day has influenced millions and will continue to influence millions. Again, he channeled a certain area of just deep sadness, deep just chaos, died. Janis Joplin, again. Jim Morris, right,
Yeah,
from the Doors.
I believe it was him who wrote People Are Strange, like
Yeah,
that, their like biggest, yeah.
yeah. So Jim Morris from the Doors. Again, I loved his music. I always thought the Doors are just an eerie band to listen to, just because their music is a lot of synth heavy. They didn't have an actual bass, had a synth bass, and they were probably really high, and some of their tracks are very long as solos in the middle of nowhere. But again, he died. He channeled a certain area that just kind of led him to death. So my theory is that only a certain people can channel these places and come out of it being successful. But I feel like you have to deposit something to be there and stay there. And again, Britney Spears, love her music. Not gonna lie, I'm a big '90s kid. She looks like she's not doing very hot as
I
well.
mean, well, but she's been through so
She's been
much.
through a lot
Yeah.
again, but I feel like she had to deposit something
Yeah.
in that pot of like sadness
So in a weird way, people did make, even if it wasn't a deal with
with
the
the
devil,
devil.
they made a deal
With
of some kind
yeah,
to be able to create the art that
yeah.
they did.
Fortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do feel there are people who are successful. But again, like it's just a crazy rabbit hole. But yes, that's kind of my
I
theory.
think the one exception to, I feel like my brain goes to Paul Simon as someone who
I love Paul Simon.
created some amazing art, still creates.
Yeah,
He's one of the most unusual careers in that his music never tapered off in
yeah.
terms of like just the creative output. And so I feel like there's never a sacrifice in his
Hmm.
music that like, in that I don't know, he still seems like he's
He,
doing
he seems like he's happy.
great. There's an amazing audiobook about him
Really,
with him in it, which everyone should go check out. It's on Audible. It's done with, God, he has a podcast on Pushkins. I can't remember right now, but
he has a podcast.
uh,
Oh,
so
the author.
the
Okay,
author
got it.
does Gladwell, Marcus Gladwell.
Hmm.
I don't know why I listened to his stuff the whole time, but it's great about Paul Simon, and Paul Simon and him sit down and go through Paul Simon's music, and that's someone in a weird way that's, I feel like, the exception to the artists need to feel pain
Yeah, the
continuously.
deposit theory. I think that's the best way to put it. Deposit theory. Paul
Yeah.
Simon's music is amazing. I met his bass player at my job,
Oh
and I
wow.
got to talk to him. Incredible guy. But yeah, you're right. It's just a theory. What I'm saying, I believe. It's scary to know that. Oh, I got to be sad to be successful. Successful. I don't think so. But some people have paid that price, and you're right. Once people die, apparently, like their name just spikes and their cells go up. Michael Jackson was one of the cases. He didn't die at 27, but once he died, like he got kind of like immortalized, or excuse me, yeah, immortalized. Like he just became super famous, re-famous again.
Yeah, it's especially if artists die at 27. So
Hmm.
there have been two studies done about the phenomenon. Um, one of which was done in Australia and looked at the deaths of artists with like top hits from, I think it was like from like I th- I can't remember the dates. And I'll probably put it in at some point in the episode more exact information about this. And they found no significant rise on that. However, the author of the book that I've read as part of my research for this did his own survey and did find a spike at 27, which shows that how much of what we perceive as like famous, because also a lot of the artists who died at 27 didn't never had a number one like album, but were still
Mm,
famous just because they had consistently good
wow.
music. So it's like, and some were more famous in the UK, some were more famous in the US, and maybe they
Hmm.
had a number one US album, but not a number one UK album. So it's all a little muddy.
Yeah, it really is. Who was the UK artist? She's right there in your notes. What's her name?
Amy
Amy
Winehouse.
Winehouse.
They talk a lot about her. She's interesting because she was um a lot of people talk about people will go to great extremes and sacrifices for their art, but it was notable that when Amy Winehouse signed her first record deal as like a teenager, her everyone around her was more excited than she was.
Mm,
She was like kind of like, yeah, I'm here. I'm cool. I'm gonna crack some jokes. I'm gonna sing some songs, and I'm just kind of vibing in the music. I just love music. I don't really care about all this stuff.
yeah.
It's just sort of just like an interesting thing to know. Like she was obviously passionate and like cared about her success and cared about making money, but it always seemed like her dad was in a weird way more enthusiastic about her career than she was.
That's sad.
Yeah.
She did say at one point, I think she was 25. She says like, I think I'm gonna join the 27 Club. She said it. So I also believe that a lot of these people, not a lot of people, but I believe like if you do speak things, you kind of invoke it and you kind of manifest it, as I think what the kids say nowadays. Um, I like to use the word like you declare it. So a lot of people that did say like, oh, I'm gonna die, they probably end up dying. What age? I don't know if Tupac died at 27, but Tupac did write a song about him dying, and then he just dies a couple of like I think a year or two after. He's
He died
25.
at
Wow, he
25.
was young. I thought he was a little bit older.
No, I mean a lot of, and that's another thing is that being an artist is an inherently risky job because you're at risk of getting killed by fans.
Yeah,
Like the average person isn't at risk of assassination. You're traveling a lot, which is inherently
yeah.
dangerous. You're interacting with way more drugs, alcohol, and party
Substance,
scenes
little party scenes. Heck yeah.
than the average person would, and you're pulling weird hours, which already is bad for your mental health just
Yeah.
in general. So it's a whole list of things. So you are more likely to die younger if you are an artist.
If you're not
That's
careful.
that's just a blanket
Yeah.
thing. If you're flying a lot in planes,
If-
you're more likely to be in a plane crash.
I fly a
Not
lot,
gonna
so
lie.
that's why I'm like, I fly a lot.
If you've never been in a car, you're probably not going to die in a car crash. Is the point?
Yeah.
Um, knock on wood.
I'm not even superstitious, but JK, huh?
But so the chances of you dying in your 20s, if you're just or just if you're facing more risks, you're more likely to encounter the dangers of
Yeah.
said
And
risks.
Tupac wasn't hanging out with the most safe people either.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it. But Kurt Cobain also was very well aware of the 27 Club.
Yeah.
He always had a fascination for death, and
Mm,
suicide throughout his life. And he had made it known to a lot of people that he didn't think he was going to make it to 30.
mm, damn.
So, not saying that he ended his own life specifically at 27 to become a part of the 27 Club, but it was like, this is his death, tragic, was not like sudden and unexpected.
And I think all the people, all these artists that passed at 27, they had so much more to give.
Yeah,
They had
100%.
so much more to give. I was reading that Jimi Hendrix and Miles Davis had a collab coming up, and I think that
Oh,
collab
wow.
would have blown up the world. Like it would have been crazy to hear them two just team up and compose and write together.
It's also interesting the crossovers. Like, I think Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin dated, but they weren't able to talk about it particularly because Jimi Hendrix is a person of color,
Hmm.
and there was still a lot of racism. There
Yeah.
still is a lot of
Yeah.
racism, but there was even more
Yeah,
racism
most definitely.
back when they like during the rock revolution
I
era.
didn't know that they actually dated. Or
They might have, but if they did, they kept it incredibly
very
under
very
wraps
low key. Yeah,
for like publicity sake.
yeah, for
Sort of
sure.
like, I guess, yeah, I don't know, the modern equivalent being like same sex couples still in public media will still keep it under wraps.
Mm-hmm. I know a person that partied with a lot of these people. I don't know how he's still alive. Like this man, I met him. He's actually good friends with one of the people I work with. He's been around forever, and he's partied with Jimi Hendrix. He's partied with Jim Morris. He's partied with all these people, and he's old, but he looks like he's like 100, but he's maybe like 70. He's just been around.
I know a guy also who's sort of been around a lot of that. More so like the classic rock scene of like what's that what which is like Stevie Nicks kind of
Mm,
music. Um but he never did drugs or anything
okay,
like that. And so he always stayed
that's good.
sober.
That's good.
He drank but like nothing else.
Yeah.
So and he just like naturally is a nocturnal person.
Oh, bless
So
his heart.
it's like works I guess it worked
It
out.
worked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a morning person.
Yeah, so we are getting to the last part of the podcast
Nice.
where I usually ask for some advice. This is where we do shout outs and all those kind of things. So if you have any advice, because we're talking a lot about mental health here
Hmm.
in this episode, um, for artists who are going or in their late 20s and are kind of like maybe hitting a rut of some kind, what kind of advice would you give? And once again, neither of us are mental health experts. We're just musicians
Yes.
who have had our own personal experiences.
Hmm. My advice is, if you feel like, let's say your art is kind of drying you up and you feel burnout, exhausted, and not healthy, not mentally healthy, do something different. Do something that's nothing to do with your art. Like, I don't know, go fish, go cook, do something like that. Because there's the research is that if you do something that has nothing to do with your practice, your brain tends to like feel more relaxed and more relief. And then they call them hobbies, right? But like, for example, music for me was a hobby growing up and it became my job. Now I'm like, gosh, what's my new hobby? So I love photography, and that's where I have nothing to do with my guitar, and I just do my pictures. And even though I don't post most of my pictures, at least me just driving to a location taking pictures really rests my brain from music 24/7. Because I'm literally playing music at least 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week sometimes. And if you're touring, it's almost every night. But another thing is like if you don't feel okay, the hardest thing for anybody that's going through something mentally, like you're exhausted, burnout, depressive, and anxious, reaching out. I know it's hard because I went through it, but sometimes you just a quick knock on the door and somebody's like, "Hey, man, can I just talk to you?" Somebody you really trust and is open to hearing you out. Open up to them and just be like, "Hey, I'm not okay. I need help. Can you help me?" Blah blah blah. I'm pretty sure they will say yes and they'll help you get to where you need to be, because I was going through a really bad place and I thought I was going to take myself out of it, but no, I had to literally knock on the door and a couple of really close people and be like, "Hey, I'm not okay." And somehow they found a place for me to go, and that was the beginning of like I guess my healing, you can say, or getting better. But it was really dark. Like I'll put it like this: I was like in a very dark place where like the only light I saw was when I told them, "Hey, I need help," and somehow that light got bigger and bigger. And thank God I'm here now. I'm a hell of a lot better than I was when I was 27, or when I think it was 2019. If I do the math, I think I was 27. So 2018, 2019. So I was around 27, 28. So yes, guys. Again, I'm not saying if you're 27 or you're not 27. No, like mental health is affected by everybody, all ages, everywhere and anywhere. So yo, if you need help, also you can reach out to us, our social medias. We're here to help you guys as well. If you need somebody to talk, I think just being heard is the biggest part.
I will say though, you should not reach out to artists in general unsolicited if you're
Yes,
having mental health issues. What you should do, however, is reach out to there are a number of hotlines and
exactly.
mental health experts, and I will be including links to said hotlines
Yes,
in the description below. So if you are struggling, please, I will be directing you towards those. But it is important to seek help.
yes.
I just have to put that for liability
No,
reasons
no, for
out
sure,
there.
for sure, for sure. But again, y'all, like, you are worth being helped. Like, a lot of people feel unworthy. They're like, "Oh, I don't think I'm good. I'm good enough to be helped." Like, no, you are worth being helped. So, yo, you deserve love. You deserve respect. You deserve being helped, and you deserve to be happy. So, I think that's all I gotta say.
And this is such like a hard turn, but I guess last point. Do you have anything you need to shout out or
Oh
promote?
yeah, guys, follow me on my YouTube
It's like,
channel.
hey, I know you're struggling with depression. Here's a list of things we're gonna now promote.
Guys, just follow me on my YouTube channel, Leo Vasquez, and then my Instagram, the Bearded Bases, the THEE Bearded Bases. I'm pretty sure Sadie's gonna put all those things down below, and I think that's pretty much it, y'all.
Yeah,
Like,
and we you guys might be seeing us again
Yes.
at some point. We still haven't recorded that. We still
Yeah.
need to figure out all the logistics for that.
But we're doing something cool.
But yeah, we're working on a cool project
We're
together.
teaming up to do something very cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it.
I'm stupid
More
excited
research.
too. Yeah, a lot of research on both ends, but it's gonna be really fun, really cool. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you, Sadie, for having me here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
And then everybody
All right.
that's watching us, thank you, and have fun. Be safe out there. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. And thank you, Leo, for coming on the show again. I know this was a difficult episode for us to get through, but I do think it was an important topic to talk about, as it is a very important part of the modern music mythos. Therefore, it's an important topic for us to talk about on this podcast, because this is a music history podcast. Once again, you can find me on most social media platforms. I primarily use Instagram. Episodes will be every other Friday. I hope you guys enjoyed that Sidelbia Snaps for those of you on Spotify. And also, yeah, Leo and I might have a new show coming out. I don't know. We're working out the logistics for all of it. But yes, Sidelbia Snaps, that is my new show. And those episodes will be sprinkled in wherever. Also, apologies for this episode coming out late. Life has just been really, really crazy. Not to divulge too much about myself, but there's a lot happening in my life, and some of the things will hopefully be helping to improve this podcast long term. So, like I said, thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.